Bootstrap allows us to make spacing between elements in very easy and simple way. In this lecture, we're going to be talking about margins and paddings, and also we'll discuss how to change size of the elements, I mean the width and height of them using Bootstrap classes. Let's take a look on Bootstrap documentation. In Utility section, we have spacing, in which you are able to find information regarding margin and padding classes. Here we have the abbreviation for margin and padding properties. So M stands for margin and P for padding. Also, you're able to indicate size. For example, for top you can use T, B for bottom, and also we have left and right. If you want to set margin and padding for left and right sides at the same time, you can use X, and for top and bottom you can use Y. Besides that, we are able to use responsive breakpoints with margins and padding classes, and if you do it, you need to place them between sides and the sizes. Okay, let's talk about the sizes. You can indicate 7 different values from 0 to 5, and also we have here auto. Obviously, in case of 0, you set margin and padding as 0, but with the rest of the values, the calculation of margin and padding sizes are different. So, for example, when the value is 1, then spacer is multiplied to 0.25 rems. Actually, spacer is sus variable, and by default it equals to 16 pixels. So, in case of 1, the value of margin and padding will be 4 pixels. For the next sizes, I mean for 2 and 3, the value is doubled. In case of 2, spacer is multiplied to 0.5 rem. And for 3, we have here only spacer, because in this case it's multiplied to 1 rem and by default it's 16 pixels. For the next size, which is 4, the value of margin and padding is not doubled if you compare it to previous value. In this case, spacer is multiplied to 1.5 rem. But in the next case, I mean for 5, the size is again doubled and the spacer is multiplied to 3 rems. And finally, we have auto, which actually sets margin as auto, and in most cases it's used in order to center the elements. Alright, let's go to VS Code and write some examples to understand better all of this stuff. I'm going to create multiple paragraphs with some content. Let's duplicate it twice. Also, I'm going to change background colors to test better. For the first paragraph, I'm going to set background as primary, also text as light. Then for second paragraph, let's use background info and text white, and then background warning. As for the last paragraph, I'm going to leave its text as dark. Okay, as a default, those paragraphs have margin bottom, which in this case equals to 1 rem, and in order to prove that, let's inspect the page, and then I'm going to check the style. So you see that for paragraph we have margin top as 0 and also margin bottom as 1 rem. So those are the default values. Using Bootstrap classes, we can change spacing. For example, if we assign for the first paragraph margin bottom as 0, then the space between first and second paragraphs will be removed. We can also increase margin bottom. If we write, for example, MB5, then the margin bottom for the first paragraph will be increased. So we have used here margin bottom, but if we want to change margin for all 4 sides, I mean top, right, bottom and left, then we can write M-2. As we said in the beginning of the lecture, we are able to use responsive breakpoints with margin and padding classes. For example, let's assume that we want to increase margin as soon as the screen size becomes small, and then increase it again when the screen size will be large. For that, we have to add the following classes: MSM-3, and then for large screen M-LG-5. So when the screen size will be extra small, then the margin will be 2, Then for small and medium screen sizes, margin will be 3, and for large and extra large screen sizes, it will be 5. Okay. When you want to make space simultaneously on the right and left sides, you need to use class mx with the proper value, let's say 3. So if I save it, then second paragraph will get margins on left and right sides. In the exact same way, you can make space on top and bottom sides simultaneously, and for that we have to use class my with the value, for example, 4. So you can play around and test how spacing works using different margin properties. There is one thing to note and remember. So here for the first paragraph we have MB5. If we assign to second paragraph margin top 5, then this space won't be changed and it will be maintained as 5, which actually equals to 3 rems. So if we change here the values and write for the first paragraph MB2, and then for second paragraph margin top 4, then the space between paragraphs will be 4, which is 1.5 rems. So as a conclusion, we can say that margin property with greater value has the higher precedence and it always wins. Alright, let's go ahead and test how padding classes work. I believe you already guessed how it works. With padding, we can use different sides and different sizes in the exact same way as it was in case of margins. For example, if we want to make padding on all 4 sides, obviously we need to write P and then the value, let's say 3. So you can see that the paragraph has padding on all 4 sides. If you want to make padding separately on all different sides, then you can use proper abbreviation and the value you need. Let's say we want to increase padding on the left side. For that we can write PL5. So you see that the padding on the left side is increased. The old value, which was 3, is now overwritten with a new one. As it was in case of margins, the greater value of padding has the higher precedence and it's always taken into account. We're able to use responsive breakpoints with paddings as well. Suppose that we want to make padding 1 on small screen size, then on medium and large screen sizes 4, and 5 on extra large screen size. For that we have to write the following: P-SM-1, then P-MD4, and the last one PXL-5. So if we make the screen extra small, then the padding will be 3. Then on small screen size it will become 1. For medium screen size padding will be 4. And for extra large screen size it will be 5. Alright, I'm not going to test all the possible properties and values because I think it's not necessary. I think that the key point here is to understand how those classes actually work, so you can test and practice with different margin and padding classes on your own. Alright, let's move on and talk about sizing of the elements. In Bootstrap we have width and height classes, and using those classes you can manage sizing of the elements. Let's delete those paragraphs and I'm going to create div element. Let's change background color using Bootstrap class and set background as secondary. And also I'm going to assign to it some inline CSS styles. Let's define the width of the div element as 800 pixels and also height as 600 pixels. Inside the div element, I'm going to create multiple div elements with some classes. Let's set background as primary, then make text light, and also I'm going to set padding as 3. Let's duplicate it 3 times and change background colors. Right here, danger, then success, and for the last one I'm going to use background warning. Alright, we're good to go. In order to change width of the div elements, we can use class width, which is represented with W, and then we can use the proper value. Actually, we have 4 different values. In order to make it clearer, I'm going to take a look on documentation. Let's go to sizing. So you can find here that the values for width class are represented as percentage. We have 25%, 50%, 75, and 100. And those values are calculated depending on the parent element's width. Also, you need to note that when you use those values with width classes, then you just need to indicate the value itself without percent. Besides the width property, we can use also max width class, and the abbreviation for max width property is MW. Okay, let's go back to code editor and assign to div elements width. For the first element, I'm going to use width as 25%. So you see that it took up 1/4 of its parent element's width. Then that's assigned to second div element width as 50%. Then for third div element, I'm going to assign width as 75. And for the last one, write width as 100%. Let's save it, and you can see that our div elements have the proper widths. So that's the way how width classes work. You can use width and margin auto in combination in order to center the element. Let's do it, for example, for second div element. If we add the class here m-auto, then the second div element will be placed in the center of the parent div element. Alright, let's talk about height classes. At first I'm going to delete those div elements. Let's just leave the first one. Height class has the same percentage values. I mean, we have 25%, 50, 75, and 100. And those values work depending on parent element's height. So if we use here height 25%, then the div element will take up 1/4 of the total height of the parent div element. In the same way, we can use 50%, 75, and 100. Alright, you can check out Bootstrap documentation and find information regarding height classes. The one thing to note is that, like max width property, you are able to use max height as well. Okay, it was all about spacing and sizing of the elements in Bootstrap. Again, I want to say that it's pretty much simple stuff, but at the same time it's very useful and helpful. Okay, let's go ahead.